Bobby. What's going on,
Matt,
my man? How are
we are
you?
back for another good edition of the Ombudsman Report. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. It was nice seeing you this weekend. Bobby
Yep, got a
actually
chance to come
decided
up there.
to, Bobby actually decided to come visit me with one of his friends, one of our friends. I'm sorry, to come see the great, hilarious Joey Diaz
Indeed.
live in concert, and he was
Coco.
just, he lived up to the hype, man. He was hysterical. It was unreal. I couldn't believe half the shit he was saying. It was so nice to get to a comedy club and remind ourselves that the world is not PC. That people of all different flavors were in that club, and they were all loving some Joey Diaz.
Yep.
The cruder, the better, and it was really funny. It was just a great weekend. It was a good time. I hope you had fun.
Yeah, I had a great time. Good to be up in Hoboken. Check out the city, New York City.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, there was no PC. There was no PC going on Saturday.
No, not at all, man. And you got to come see my bougie lifestyle in New York as a New York City liberal, right?
Yeah.
That's what people are telling me.
Yep. We protested it and picketed it over nothing. We got right into it.
We found that racist guy that was told people to speak English, and we protested him with the mariachi band outside and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a event-packed weekend. But in case you don't know, in case you're watching this and you're like, who the hell are these two guys? This is the Ombudsman Report. We do this every week. We talk about news, we talk about politics, we talk about culture. My name is Matthew Sperrier. Find me on Twitter at Planet Politico, although I'm taking a hiatus right now, so don't expect any spicy tweets.
Sure.
And I'm always joined by my co-host, Bobby Giuliani. You can follow him at Bobby J Politics.
Yes, indeed.
Is that it? Did we cover everything for the beginning?
I think we got our bases down. Let's just get into it here.
Yeah, so I think first want to start off with, quick 2 minutes just to say we talked about it with the despicable and super sad shooting that occurred at Santa Fe High School.
Right.
I believe 10 people were killed. If that's correct, I believe a teacher or two teachers and 8 students.
I think it's 2 teachers. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to hear our opinions on gun control and these school shootings, when we first started this podcast, that was dominating the news. And
Yeah,
so we
back
sort
in
of got,
Parkland.
we sort of got all that out there. I mean, I think it's suffice to say, at least for me, is, as sad as these things are, I don't think a top-down solution really does anything to stop this. I mean, we can talk more about the gun violence restraining order that David French proposes, but there's nothing to say that even that would have stopped this shooting. I mean, it's just a matter of fact that when there's someone who is, poisoned by the thought and the drive to kill and take innocent life, it's hard to stop that. And those people find really creative and insidious ways to inflict damage and ruin lives of not only the people they kill, but of the families and the friends. So, yeah, I mean, just thoughts with all those families, obviously.
Yeah. No, I mean, we did a whole podcast about it. I mean, one of the reasons we're not going to talk about it right now is just because, the right says not now, out of respect for those injured. Now is not the time for gun control talk, and the left says like now it's too late already. But the problem is like neither sides can even remotely communicate with one another. On
this issue specifically.
On this issue specifically. I mean, on every issue, obviously, but on this issue specifically. And if you can't come to even like a rational, agreeable starting point from there, which both sides are willing to concede, look at facts, and then come to an outcome that both find agreeable and think would work, then what's the point of yelling at one another over it? And really, we're not in a place in this country to talk about it. I mean, I just saw in the wake of the shooting, CNN, New York Times, and someone else all put out stories saying this is the 18th school shooting of the year. And then CNN was like, this is the 24th school shooting of the year. And something we talked about on that first podcast, it might have been our second podcast ever, was just, defining what is a school shooting. Like, we can't even come to a definition of what a school shooting is. Apparently there's been 24, apparently there's been 18. So if you can't have baseline facts that both sides agree on, you're not going to get some kind of sweeping policy that you think will help, but in both of our opinions, top-down solutions rarely do. So, I mean, very sad that it occurred. But
Yeah, I mean, I also think
We're just
part
going to
of
keep
this.
screaming at each other and you know, not taking steps to solve what, you know, I don't think can ever be taken away. You're never going to be able to legislate away some lone actor, you know, deciding he wants to kill himself and kill others, whether that's with guns or any other means, trucks nowadays. But
Yeah, I mean, well, you see in Great Britain, I mean, they try banning knives, and people, I mean, they have so many knife attacks nowadays.
I mean, London just passed New York City in terms of murder rates, right?
Right,
And they
exactly.
don't have guns, so
You know, part of having this difficult conversation, I believe, in part is that in the United States we have the left and the right, right? These monoliths, the left, the right, right?
sure.
And the truth is that the reality is more. Here are 5 different components of the right. Here are 10 different components of the left, and they don't even agree with each other. And their own disagreements, you know, people spit venom at their own side. You see, we always say the left loves to eat itself, but
Right.
the right likes to eat itself as well.
Right. You're a rhino if you give up a little bit.
Right. So
No, that's a very good point there. And I mean, there's fractures within the two divides of left right, but for those that aren't extremely engaged, or those that couldn't, you know, articulate the difference between, you know, someone who's very conservative on guns and someone who's just, you know, center right.
or like a neoliberal
Right,
and
like,
and a progressive.
but
You
if
know
you're
what I
not
mean?
engaged, if you're not engaged enough to understand that there is fractures within each of the left-right divide, then it's very easy for the media in particular to just say the right thinks this, the left thinks this, and I take it as like a or B option. When within each, there's, like you said, 10 or 5 different factions.
Well, it's easier because we have to use, you know, it's just a constraint of language in that when you're trying to have these conversations and convey points to one another, it's just easier to say the left. It's sort of like a shortcut.
Sure, sure.
And
It's like, what do you mean by the left?
and don't get me wrong, you know, the right and the left both have certain, you know, values or principles, whatever you want to call them, that run throughout, I would say.
Or
Right?
they
Like you're not
campaign on.
like you're not going to find many people on the left that are pro-life. Actually, you know what? Maybe I won't even use that example. I'll say you won't find many people on the right that are pro-choice, for example.
Sure,
Right.
there are certain issues that kind of cover the whole.
And it
The
sort
whole-
of just runs like through the party completely. And when it comes to a topic like gun control, where there needs to be a lot of nuance in what we're talking about, because when you're talking about in our case in America, taking away fundamental rights, right? Like
Right.
that. I mean, this is sort of a difference in how the left and the right. See, I'm using my own qualifiers here because it's easier. View the role of government, right? The right believes in general that the government is there to protect your rights.
Well,
The
you wish
left-
the right would believe that.
You wish the right would believe that.
They
In theory,
campaign on it.
in theory, well, for
Sure.
gun rights, they believe that the government is there to protect your gun rights,
Sure.
while the left sort of believes that the government is used as a tool and gives you rights. The government gives you rights, and that's
Not
just a
the
fun.
rights are self-evident.
And so, if you can give someone rights, then you can take them away. And that's just a fundamental disagreement. That, man, to convince people on that point, that's an impossible game. I mean, almost pretty much.
I mean, you made a very good point there. If you really boil down all the issues facing, you know, the issues that divide the country into left right, it all comes down to a fundamental belief about what the role of the government is.
Yeah,
You know,
for sure.
if you boil every issue down, like, oh, guns, no guns or more guns, and it's like you just said, like it comes down to, do you have the right, you know, an inalienable right to self-protection, or should the government be able to take that away in order to, in their mind, protect someone else? And then, I mean, every issue, abortion, that comes down to just government power.
Yeah.
Like,
But, you know, now I'm thinking about it, then there's also something where it's like gay marriage, for example, where you would think the right traditionally would be like, hey, government shouldn't be telling us what to do. Because, you know, gay marriage for me, I mean, they like to frame it in a religious context, and you can't blame them. They're living a religious life.
Fair
Right?
enough.
That's the lens they're viewing these things.
Mhm.
But you know, let me think. I'm trying to think of who articulated it this way, but gay marriage is a freedom of speech issue and a freedom of association issue.
Right.
I think that's the best argument, right? You
No,
should be
I
able
agree.
to associate with whoever you want, and you should be able to call it whatever the fuck you want. That's it. That's done. Freedom of speech, freedom of association. We should frame it that way, right? I mean, and maybe you and I are probably 10 years too late, because I feel that most of the right has sort of gone towards social libertarianism on this point, the mainstream at least. I mean, you're not even seeing. I mean,
that's
Mike,
the point. I mean, they'll tell you you're a bigot, but find me someone who's actually campaigning on repealing gay marriage, and like, oh, okay.
Yeah, there's not many.
They've rolled over.
They've really, which is really interesting that the Republican Party sort of transformed, right before our lives, in our lifetime, right? In our relatively short lifetime, we saw.
You wouldn't know it though, right? Aren't they a bunch of racist Nazi bigots?
Right. Well, they would never admit it, but people. That's a pretty big transformation. That's like a fundamental thing, and I think not just the right in general, right? We're using the Republican Party again. But I mean, it transformed throughout the nation in terms of gay rights. I mean, the Democratic Party, Barack Obama in 2008 was against gay rights. And I think we've brought this up before. And then as soon as it hit that 51% mark, then all of a sudden, you're the most evil person in the world, and you want tyranny if you're against gay marriage.
Right.
That's interesting. Sorry, just went down that little.
Well, no,
tangent.
that was a good point to counter what I was saying, because I didn't. I mean, obviously, we're here just thinking off the top of our head a lot of the times, but it made me think of something. So, I mean, Michael Malice, for anyone who's unaware, he's basically an anarcho-capitalist.
Sorry for the people who anarcho-capitalist.
Sure.
It kind of no, sorry, you cut out a little bit. My bad.
Oh, did I?
My shitty connection.
Well, oh yeah, I think I'm losing again here, but he's a very good authority on North Korea. Been to the country, wrote a book on it, but his Twitter account, you don't follow him for news or information. You follow him for his snark, essentially.
Yeah, I agree. He's one of the best at it.
Because as a self-described anarchist, he feels no affiliation to either side, so you can get a straight reading from him a lot of the time. And I saw a couple stories for the other day. He tweeted out that conservatism is just progressivism driving the speed limit. And as someone who likes to identify,
that's funny.
Who likes to identify with how conservatives campaign as opposed to how they govern. It started to. I mean, he's got a point, like I just said, and then how you corrected me. A lot of these issues come down to a fundamental belief of what the role of government is, and then you point out something like gay marriage, where, maybe not right now, or maybe not all of them, but at one point, you would have a conservative arguing for more and a bigger intrusive government. So it's conservatism is progressivism driving the speed limit.
Yeah, it's always weird when I see people on the right, and thank God I got off Twitter for the past week, because I got none of the poison and the venom and the just disgusting comments that I knew were going to be flowing after this shooting. But, I just lost my train of thought. What were we talking about? Michael Malice?
You were off Twitter.
Oh, I just lost my train of thought right there. I can't believe that just happened.
That happens.
Well, all right. Well, either way.
I guess one last point that we made a little bit before the show was just...
I'm sorry. I remember.
We're back online.
We're back on track. I'm sorry. I should write these things down. It's hard to do a show when you're just doing it off the top of your head, okay? What I was saying is it's funny that when I see people on the right, again, and we're using these language, and I'll just use them
because people know what you mean. But
people know what I mean. It's a shortcut, exactly.
Yeah.
I try when we attack people. It's better to not pull like a Dave Rubin and just say the left hates talking to people, and you got to say no. The SJW Marxist or like the progressives. It's nice when you're attacking these people to like really grade it down.
The reason he gets away with that is because that 1% and maybe 5% has a outsized voice.
Right, exactly. They have they're the radical minority. But when people talk about the culture war, right? The culture war is so important. Right? Culture is everything. Culture is the most important thing there is. And I've seen people like Cernovich and others. They'll be like, the right is swinging back and winning the culture war. You guys lost the culture war like 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, like what culture war? The left runs all of the schools, all of the universities. Their version of Hollywood, their version of history is getting taught. their movies are getting taught, their ideals are being put on the screen, and they're
Right.
they're the ones making video games that are going through. They won. You lost the culture war. You lost that a long time ago. I mean, now you're just fighting to not lose it in such a way that it looks really sad.
And they've lost it so badly that they're getting
scrounging for anything.
That they're
That's why these culture wars.
They've
That's
lost
why
it
these
so
culture
badly that
wins.
we're now at a point where the left is so intolerant because they've just been winning consistently. Now that they're getting actual pushback because they've hit no slowdown, no speed bumps. They just win on every issue, so that now they're so radical and that when they do get pushback, they categorize you as a Nazi.
Right. I mean, maybe actually calling people Nazis is the perfect transition to go into our next topic, because I've been hearing a lot about the dehumanization of other people, and when you call them bad names, it might lead to violence. And calling someone a bad name is mandating violence against that group of people.
Right.
Which, of course, if you're a rational human being, is such bullshit. It's such bullshit, and they don't even last. Like, they'll be like, well, so maybe we'll catch everyone up. So on Thursday, you know what, you tell it, because I'm
so
just
on
getting
Thursday
pretty
the
heated
outrage
here.
finally broke, but it started on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And in thinking about this before we went on the air here, I was trying to decide if this is a case of media malpractice. So, I mean, obviously with social media, there's now a rush to be first. There's a rush to be the first tweet, because if you're the first tweet, you get the first retweets, and if you get the first retweets, you're the first one to go viral.
Right.
And then,
you get that first spicy hot take. I mean, you
Exactly.
get 50,000 retweets on your...
So there's a rush to be first, but then when you add in that rush to be first, and which inevitably takes away fact checking and doing your due diligence, and add in just the blind hatred that the media has for Trump, when things like this happen, which is basically just a general mischaracterization of what he said, totally blowing it out of context, and then hitting him over the head with it, you have to wonder, are they doing this on purpose, or are they just that inept? And I think in this case, it had to be purposeful, because, I mean, even if it initially started as being inept, they continued with it for almost a full day. And instead of, just retracting and just, for once saying that we overstepped our bounds, they just changed their story. So what we're referring to here is Trump and the MS-13 gang animals comment. So on Wednesday afternoon, he was in a roundtable, meeting on California sanctuary cities. And once it was over, he started fielding questions from the reporters, right? So the reporters ask questions, and if anyone's seen Trump ever answer a question, he says the same 6-word answer 9 different ways, and he speaks bluntly and repetitively and descriptive in a childish fashion. So the question was specifically in reference to MS-13.
Not a lot of 4-syllable words in a Trump answer.
No, not at all. So the MS-13 gang, I mean, started in South America, is now in the United States. I think it's the largest gang in the United States. Incredibly violent. There was a story out of Virginia that they stabbed a man 100 times, beheaded him, and ripped his heart out. Like, they actually cut his heart out of his chest. If you remember the recent State of the Union, Trump up in the rafters had the parents of two young girls that were raped and killed by MS-13 gang members. I mean, countless stories you can find in the United States.
They're the... You don't mess with MS-13. I mean,
either
like,
the largest or the most violent. I don't know which title they hold in the United States.
I remember seeing an episode of Gangland back in like 2011 on MS-13, and the first scene was just like, these are the most violent people you will ever like encounter, and they're scary.
They're animals.
They're
animals.
They're something else. I mean,
yeah, something other than humans. They're animals. And
yeah.
And here's the thing. And Trump says this, and anyone with the brain who sees a story, man stabbed 100 times, beheaded, and heart cut out, they'll think to themselves, "Wow, what animal just did that?" But the
Yeah.
media has to be our protectors. They're so much better and righteous and moral than Trump and his evil Nazi administration.
Right. Jim
So
Acosta is
Jim
Jesus
Acosta is
reincarnate.
he's the moral standard. So, Trump gets a question specifically about MS-13, and in his answer, he says, they're coming over the border, and then the direct quote is, "These aren't people, these are animals." And if you know Trump and if you know his rhetoric on immigration, he's used this word before for MS-13.
Dude, he's from New York. Bunch of animals. He's a New York real estate guy. I mean, that's exactly what you expect coming out of his mouth. Come on.
So, right, exactly right. And it's not like it's the first time it's ever come out of his mouth. So, the first tweet that surfaced that I saw was from C-SPAN, but they were not the only one. And if anyone were to do it innocently, it would be C-SPAN. So they tweet out, here's the thing, is it ignorance or is it selectively edited? You can post clips on Twitter for as long as you'd like, right? They post a 49-second clip that begins just as Trump starts speaking, and you can't hear the question. So you only get his full response.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
I thought
then,
Jordan Peterson was maligned or Sam Harris was taken out of context.
This was really bad.
This was, when this happened, I immediately, first of all,
I texted you about 15 messages just saying how, and Matt can attest, it was Wednesday night. It was about 5 hours after the meeting, and as this was gaining steam online. And it's just, they still wonder why he won.
well, because this is the thing. And when I first heard, I said, no way, they're lying. Guarantee. I said, if Trump actually said that all
Immigrants are
Mexicans
animals.
or all immigrants are animals, then, we're far gone what's beneath the office of the president at this point. Right? If you're sitting on CNN and you're like, what do I tell my children, the office of the president? Remember Van Jones went on election night. We're past that point, right? I'm not defending that. This is beneath the president. Obviously, he's crass.
It's beneath the president to call gang members animals?
No, it's just beneath the president to just have off comments like that. I mean, it just in terms of decorum, I would say, right? Like, it's not, you don't want the president of the free world to say that. And even if they're right, you don't want the president of the free world to say those types of things. Whatever.
A lot of the things he said, I agree with you. I don't care about this point. I really don't.
But this is the thing. When I saw this, I said, "There's only three." I only had three takeaways. You were one of three. If you watched, either you didn't watch the full clip, right? You just didn't watch the full clip,
right?
Right? Yeah, I'm saying people, you didn't watch the full clip, and you're just looking to hop on the Trump bash wagon, and if Trump called a bunch of immigrants animals, then yeah, okay, this is
rightly do it. Sure.
Then we rightly jump on him. The second was your context clues and comprehension are just so off that it begs the question, how the fuck are you a journalist? Right. How the fuck are you reporting on politics if you can't hear this question and statement and you get out of it that he was calling all immigrants animals, right? I mean,
sure.
I was like, there's no way any rational person could do this. And the third, which is the most sinister, is you knew the context. You knew he was talking about MS-13 gang members. And your hate for Trump, you're just looking to jump on this guy so much, which there are a million reasons to jump on him. Right? He just signed a deal with ZTE in China after he talks about, China taking all of our jobs, ZTE, the guys that are hacking phone data and stuff. Right? You can jump on him. But you're willing to omit the context. And I think that begs the same question. How the fuck are you a journalist? How the fuck are you a political commentator?
So to recap, your three takeaways was either total ineptness, willful maliciousness in an attempt to get him, or an innocent mistake.
Yeah, basically.
An innocent mistake because of their malice. Oh, Trump said animals at an immigration thing, must be talking about all immigrants. They come with these preconceived notions and then they go with it. So it was either intentional ignorance or wrongfully putting it out there because of their already
clickbaity. Right, you're doing clickbait and you're trying to get the controversy. But
here's the thing, that might have been how it started. It could have been either ignorance or they did it,
I don't think so.
type thing.
I don't think so.
But it ends up being malice without a doubt, because the next morning, 11 a.m.
They double down.
They double down. They double down. They do it again. Like New York Times that afternoon tweets a picture of Trump's quote, the main sentence where he says animals. And the tweets, Trump lashed out at undocumented immigrants during a White House meeting, calling those trying to breach the country's borders animals. So here you can see the language is already shifting. It went from immigrants to those trying to breach the company's borders, right? That was the day of. And then the next day at 10 a.m., after 15 hours of this, NBC News tweets again, just Trump's response, not the question. They don't put the question in the tweet, and they just say, quote, while railing against California for its so-called sanctuary immigration policies. Try and pick up the bias in this.
Right.
It's just, they're so fucking obvious. President Trump referred to some of those who crossed the border illegally as animals, drawing a sharp rebuke from Dem leaders.
And you know what else is so funny in this? Is that they all play every single day. How could Sarah Sanders get up on the White House press corps podium and lie to the Republic for a tyrannical dictator? And then, Sarah Sanders goes, it's fake news, and Donald Trump goes, it's fake news. And they're like, fake news? He's attacking democracy. This is an African banana republic. I mean, this is what they behave. And then, right? And then they just give him the fake news.
Mm-hmm. They give it to him right away.
They give it to him for free. They give it to him for free. For free. He goes, Donald Trump could not have asked for a more perfect headline to give to his base. That, you guys watched the clip, right? I was talking about gang members.
And
these guys are just lying.
He doubled down. Like the next day or Friday, the day after, he goes, well, if you check the clip, if you had any shred of integrity, you would know I was talking about MS-13. And then he goes, and I'll say it again, they're animals.
The guy's got gusto, whatever.
But here's the thing. You'll hear Jim Acosta talking about the danger to our republic. He'll say democracy because he's an idiot. The danger to our republic. What is actually more dangerous? A president that lies blatantly, such as Trump, or the media that lies blatantly?
What's worse?
What would you rather have? Would you rather have a perfectly honest and on your ass media calling fair balls and strikes, and then put a president in there like Trump that serially lies? Or would you rather have a roll of the dice of presidents? You could have a Bush, Obama, Trump, and a media as bad as ours. I'd rather have a president in there that lies and a media that's on the ball.
Well, I think we're sort of lucky in the United States. The president is sort of checked in a certain way to, like, we could put a liar as a president. We already do have a liar as the president.
We've always had a liar as a president.
That's very true. That's very true.
Matt, 20 minutes ago, we're talking about how we'd like our president not to say these things. I'd like to have a president that doesn't fucking lie. Find me one that didn't.
You're right. You like your doctor, you can keep your doctor.
Like doctor, you can keep your doctor.
Right? So, I mean, you're right.
Yeah, we wonder where this comes from. Check the last 8 years.
There's another thing that bugs me in these conversations, just me personally, because you know this about me, and I feel like on this podcast I come off as always defending Donald Trump. And maybe that's just because I'm a contrarian, right? I'm willing to believe that I like to get in arguments. I certainly like to get in arguments and play devil's advocate.
Sure.
I voted for Hillary Clinton. Begrudgingly, right? I mean, I wasn't happy about it. Right. But the other side is doing, it's so dishonest that I'm like, yo, I hate this guy too, but can we like stay in some ground of reality? Can we live in reality just a little bit? Because, and I was very disappointed. I'm a big fan of Bill Maher's show, Real Time. Love that show. And even he was saying, who's usually, I like to think, is usually on top of that stuff. I mean, he hates Trump, but he's usually on top of the bullshit. And I was like, how could someone watch this?
He's a libertarian that got pushed more progressive because of his audience, but go ahead.
Yeah, now he's just he likes the Democratic Party. Yeah, he plays the Democratic Party. I don't know, man. This was just an example of, I mean, Trump needed a win, in the fake news category, you're starting to forget that the media lied all the time, I guess, and then they hand you this on a silver platter, and it's ridiculous. And there's no excuse for it, because this is the thing. They could have taken almost the same stance and just said, whoa, MS-13 gang members are pretty bad, but let's not call people animals.
No, but that's what they ended up doing. Here's the thing. They could have done that from the start.
They could have done that from the start.
They could have done that from the start, but they didn't. I think the breaking down of the timeline of when they're hitting him over this and when they would have clearly known that they're doing something dishonest here proves that they did it on purpose. Okay? But then here's something that would maybe redeem their credit is if they the AP eventually put out a tweet and deleted their original tweet saying, we mischaracterized it. The president was actually referring to MS-13. So props to the AP for doing that.
Good.
The rest did not. But here's the thing. If they were to do that, at least on a semi-regular basis when they lie, they'd have 10 times more credibility than when they do. Because here's what happens in this instance. They do that. They clearly get called out. People can see it right away that they're being dishonest about this. And then that it shifts. It shifts from he's calling immigrants animals to no, he's calling MS-13 animals. And they go, well, okay, John Harwood says, however repugnant their actions, MS-13 gang members are human beings, in my opinion. And then Anna Navarro, who, gets billed as a Republican conservative on MSNBC, farthest thing from it.
Is she?
Dude, a conservative on MSNBC is
like
a
Democrat.
A unicorn.
It's a corporate Democrat, yeah.
Right. So, she tweets that Nazis called Jews rats and slaveholders viewed slaves as subhuman, so that Trump's in bad company, right? And then someone pulls a tweet from her from October before the election, and she says, should Trump drop out of the race?
Wait, sorry, repeat that.
Animals.
You just got you got
Anna Navarro tweets that Trump's basically in the company of Nazis and slaveholders by calling MS-13 animals. And then Charles Cook pulls a tweet from her, in October before the election. And she says in the tweet, quote, should Trump drop out of the race? Yes. He should drop out of the human race. He is an animal. Apologies to animals. So, okay, girl, how hypocritical do you want to be here?
How could you ever say such? Because,
and the common man, dude, spare me the outrage. I call them animals myself. I don't care if Trump does, and I don't need you waving your finger at him and me by extension telling me that I'm a bad person. Yeah. Sorry.
Well, because also there were some articles trying to justify their position by saying, and the root of it basically came down to when you call people bad names, eventually they get genocided or something. This is the example.
Trump supporters are deplorables and the NRA is literally terrorists?
Well, I'll bring that up in 1 second. So they can call
people bad names. Go ahead.
Oh, of course. Well, Hillary Clinton, half of his voters are deplorable. They're what's it called? What is it? They can't be forgiven. They're too far gone. They're deplorable. Can't come back. But I was reading this piece and it said something about how the Nazis referred to the Jews as vermin. And if you've ever looked into World War II history, there pretty brutal stuff. The propaganda that was pushed out that Jewish people were less than human. I mean, if you ever read Mouse, the graphic novel I remember I had to read in college, basically depicting Jewish people as mice and Polish people as pigs, and that was sort of the Nazis' game, right? Mm. And they used the example that in the Rwandan genocide, for example, the Hutus referred to the Tutsis as cockroaches. But it's calling people a bad name doesn't always lead to violence. But when you're genociding another race, you're probably going to use bad names.
Fair enough.
Right? It's like I don't know, a killer, likes coffee or something. And so therefore we got to say, well, you like coffee. It's no, you fucking idiot. There are a lot more factors that go into trying to exterminate another race of people beyond, oh, well, we called them cockroaches, and so now we can crush them. It's
right.
Who thinks that way? No one thinks that way.
The media.
And so I'm just calling people a bad name, calling MS-13 animals. Is it what? Okay, so we call MS-13 animals, and now we're encouraging violence against MS-13 gang members? Good! Good! Let's get the cops even more. Maybe we can get all of America to start killing MS-13 gang members. Jesus. I mean, Lord knows those guys aren't, being productive members of society. I say that in jest, but you know what I mean.
I mean, why not? But okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, calling people bad names isn't going to lead to... Trump calling immigrants animals isn't going to start making Americans by the millions just start going after illegal immigrants and trying to kill them and see them as subhuman.
You know what it would do? It would turn them off. It would turn more people like me off to him.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly.
So like, the media just thinks, they must just think, well, they do. I mean, what do you mean? What do you mean? Do they must think? They do. They think that half the country would enjoy so much Trump calling regular immigrants animals that it could potentially lead to a genocide. They either think that, or they pretend to think that. For what reason? Basically to divide us. I'm more and more by the day thinking that all of the left-wing mainstream media exists solely to divide and confuse the country. They really don't provide any clarity, any solid facts. And they find themselves, especially in the age of Trump, they find themselves consistently defending the wrong people in an effort to hit Trump. Hamas is peaceful protesters.
Right.
I can find some examples of when they're not. I can find some examples of when they're a terrorist organization. Iran's full of moderates. Hamas or MS-13 or they're immigrants like you. They're coming here to live. But meanwhile they'll slander all of the NRA and its 5 million plus members as, quote, literal terrorists.
Well, because this is the thing. If calling people bad names leads to violence, right? And the left is supposedly nonviolent, and you gotta be nice. What do you think calling a group of people Nazis does? Like, are you aware that in our culture, like, basically every game you play, war games, it's killing Nazis. Right? Inglourious Bastards, best line in that movie, killing Nazis. Right? We love that stuff. We love killing Nazis. And so you're allowed to punch a Nazi, right? You see a Nazi on a bus and he's just sitting there, punch him in the face. Why didn't you punch him harder? So they're allowed to do it.
Uh-huh.
They're allowed to call people who aren't even Nazis and advocate violence. Trump isn't allowed to call MS-13 gang members who cut off people's heads in the middle of cafes in Mexico animals because they're all human beings. Absolutely ridiculous. Again, completely agree with you. The media dishonesty and the media,
dishonesty and hypocrisy, and
the mainstream media is lost. They're done. They're no longer, what is it, the fourth estate or whatever they call themselves.
Right.
They're falling so far out of relevance, man. The people who watch the mainstream media, average age, they're like 65 years old.
Dude,
okay?
Yeah, and if you look up like demographics, like, I've John Nolte, he used to write for the Daily Wire, now he writes for Breitbart. He's
crazy.
He's nuts. He's like a total Trump guy, and one of his favorite things to do is just to tweet out the ratings and then circle all of CNN because they're dead last, and they are dead last, like by a lot in every time slot. But if you total it up, they're like, Fox News is crushing it. They get like 2.5 million viewers on like prime time, right?
Yeah, that's not that
2.5 million
impressive.
people, and then you add in MSNBC, CNN, and like the major channels, ABC, NBC. Like 8 million people are watching the news. There's 300 million people in this country, so not only are most getting it from other sources, but
dude, Joe Rogan gets like 30 million downloads a month or like a week or something.
More than that. Ben Shapiro gets 20 million.
So they're fighting for their relevance.
But we say they're losing relevance, but then again, has there ever been a time where we are more, we say there's only 10 million people actually watching the news, but it feels like there is 150 million people pointing guns at 150 million people. Like, it feels like we are split at a 50-50 and both sides hate each other.
Yeah, and we're not.
And that's the media.
I mean, we can't even get 150 million people to vote, right? What's voter turnout? I mean, so not that many people care.
70 to like 60 something.
We live in our own sort of bubble in a way. Anyone who's interested in politics, you join this bubble. It's a big bubble. It's tons of diversified viewpoints all over the place. But you know, you go back to family events, and maybe yours is different. You know, Bobby, I actually witnessed, got yelled at by his parents the other day for they made him go vote in a Pennsylvania primary. So there are families that care very much about their politics, but I go to family events.
I voted just to cancel my mom out, for the record.
Did you?
Especially in a primary, like if I'm not going to do my due diligence and look them up.
Fair enough.
I want people to vote, but I don't want people to vote uninformed, and I didn't take the time to
do the
research. So I'm not just going to be like, oh, the Republican Party endorsed this guy, I'm going to go vote for him. I actually voted against him, but
interesting. You rebel.
That's how deep the distrust has gone. Well, one, I wanted just to cancel out my mom, but two, yeah, I mean, if you're going to tell me that guy's the endorsed Republican candidate, I'm probably going to vote for the other dude. I'm probably going to vote for the guy that's challenging him.
Yeah, I'm not interested in this two-party system. I mean, dude, all of the institutions, they're fighting for control.
If we could just get some common sense libertarians, like many people would be pulling that L button.
Yeah, the problem with the libertarians is the Libertarian Party, dude.
It's a freak show, dude.
Gary Johnson, and there's something to be said if the average person doesn't know where Aleppo is.
The average person doesn't, dude. The average person can't find the United States.
No,
on the map.
That's what I'm saying. No, that's what I'm saying. I highly doubt that. I think that's a.
You ever seen Jimmy Kimmel interview people? On
yeah,
the
but
streets?
those are funny. How many people do they interview to get those answers? But either way, the Libertarian Party, John McAfee. I mean, have you seen this dude? Have you seen? I mean, I told you.
Quick research.
Do a quick research. I'm not going to mention on the show because of how weird, but this guy is crazy. And the other thing is, I feel like every libertarian person I enjoy listening to, I like Ron Paul. He's a peaceful guy. I think he's a little far on. I guess not right or left. I mean, some of the serious stuff with him, he tends to be a little more like covert ops. I don't know. Maybe that's another episode we can talk about.
Sure.
Dave Smith, Jason Stapleton, Tom Woods, Bob Murphy. None of them like the Libertarian Party, and they're all like real libertarians. Like I feel like real libertarians don't like the party because you tune into
real conservatives don't like the Republican Party.
Right, and you turn into like the Libertarian Party like debates and stuff. And you have just you have this freak show of people like running for the party, and they're debating whether or not we should have driver's license. And you're like, dude, there are like 7 wars going on right now. Like, can we put the driver's license thing on the back burner? Like,
what's that guy's name?
Trillions of dollars of debt. Is that his name?
He wears the shoe on his head.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Exactly. Is that who I'm thinking of?
Yes.
That's what I think. I'm like,
Supreme.
Well, I remember I first saw that. I was like, definitely not a libertarian. I'm not a libertarian. Refuse. There's labels. I actually want to talk real quick. I didn't mention this in the beginning, but you brought it up in the dishonesty and sort of the media lacking relevance. And we've talked about this before, but
sure.
We've talked about what Bill Maher has termed just, what is it? News porn, tragedy porn.
Tragedy porn.
Man,
if you want your fill, just tune in after there's a shooting.
Bro, I mean, I'm dropping left and right here. Right, I'm not coming at this from gun control. I'm not coming at this from Second Amendment. We need as free as it can be. I'm just coming at this from a human. Mm-hmm. Why are we putting cameras in the faces of 14-year-old kids that just saw their friends die? Where's the humanity in that? Like, come on. I mean, it's just so clear that these people are whores for ratings. Yeah. They want the clip that gets shared. They want their Twitter to blow up. And it's so fucking disgusting. Like, I can't imagine.
Because that's when I tuned out in the last shooting.
Right.
I turned on the news, and I saw literally a 14, 15-year-old little blonde girl in full-blown tears. She was shaking. She could barely speak.
And here's let's keep going.
Can you tell me what happened?
Yeah, exactly. Can you tell me what happened?
Can you tell me what happened?
How about we send this girl to the
They're 100 yards from the front door of the school. She just ran out. And it's like, are you really? And she's like, I shouldn't have to be going through this. She's like shaking. Like she should be immediately put like a blanket on, like get some counseling.
Some hot cocoa and send her to the hospital. I mean, Jesus Christ. How are these people considered responsible adults? Okay, the parents also bear some responsibility.
The mom is right behind her, actually.
The mom's right there. And, it's like, oh, my daughter's going to be on TV, and they want to interview her. It's seen as this, like, special thing. They're going to be on TV, but at some point you got to be like, yo, this is not good. This isn't how we should be handling these news, right? So a shooting happens, report on it, right? Get the facts, and we'll
try and do it accurately.
And we'll keep you guys updated as more information comes in. We just had a shooting in Santa Fe High School. 10 people dead, and as soon as we know more, we'll bring it back. But they don't. They clear the whole news day. They say nope.
Just to bring on victims.
We're just gonna interview crying 15-year-old girls for the next 8 hours, and you guys are gonna sit here and watch. And it's disgraceful. It's disgraceful. It's disgusting.
And it is.
They should
it's
be
all
ashamed.
for views, because if you do turn on the news,
ashamed.
when you get that breaking news update on your phone, you could watch the news for 2 hours. They're all going to be covering the same thing, and you're not going to learn a single new thing, because it takes about 6 for the authorities to figure out what's up and then start disclosing it to the press. It trickles in, and they fill that time because now everyone knows about it and they want to see, so they tune in with, like you said, just tragedy porn. And we just mentioned Joe Rogan. I think here's all you really need to know about if they should be doing this. He, as a commentator for the UFC, does not interview fighters that were just knocked out, because you just got knocked out.
Point.
You don't have your wits about you.
Yeah, you're not the same person.
The last time he did it was when Daniel Cormier, he got knocked out by John Jones, and he was crying in the post-fight interview. He clearly he didn't know where he was. He just got knocked out cold. Okay, that is not one bit different, and the media should have more integrity to know not to stick a young teenager who just went through a shooting, not just getting kicked in the head, a shooting, to not put them on the air.
No, they're disgraceful. They don't have integrity.
Are moral betters who get upset about language, then stick traumatized little girls for ratings on the news.
Right. Brooke Baldwin gets mad when a guy says boobs on her show, but she'll put a 16-year-old kid who just saw his best friend mowed down.
And have a special on a porn star and have her lawyer on every afternoon.
Oh, dude, I can't
spare
stand
me the outrage.
Michael
spare
Avenatti.
Me the outrage.
I can't stand Michael Avenatti. And when he starts running for politics, I'm going to campaign against him so hard, because he is such a blowhard. I can't stand him. I can't stand that American politics, the most important story, is about some porn star that our celebrity president had sex with. And I'm supposed to be upset that he paid her to shut up. She took the money. Shut the fuck up, Stormy Daniels. Go away. Just get the book deal. That's what she wants. She wants the book deal. Right. That's what this is all about.
She realized she could cash in for more than the $130 she got 10 years ago.
Exactly. They have all this bullshit. We're going to get him for a campaign finance infraction.
I thought this started on collusion with a foreign government, and now we're trying to track down his payments to hoes 10 years ago.
I know, exactly.
Come on. Hey, there's spies in the Trump campaign. Let's get on that news, CNN.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know anything about that. I'm not going to comment. I told you, I'm off Twitter. I've been reading. Where is it? I've been reading books. I've been trying to mow through this bad boy. Pretty heavy, pretty interesting. Whoop.
Shadow
War. Yeah, I'm reading right now about the emergence of the military-industrial complex in the United States right after World War I, and FDR, and how people were against going to World War II because World War I was still like fresh in the 1930s, and depression was hitting. People were like, we're not going to fucking Europe, right? And then all of a sudden, Pearl Harbor happens, and FDR gets his wish. He gets to send the boys off to
Pearl Harbor was an inside job, Matt?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Pearl Harbor wasn't as in charge. Pearl Harbor happened because I think Japan sort of knew the United States was probably going to get involved anyway, and they had to try and attack the Pacific Fleet.
They jumped the shark. We also cut them off. I don't want to say we were asking for it, but we took some steps, stopped selling them oil and stuff.
Yeah, and he actually talks about that, and Michael Sherry, a little bit about World War One. You know, because some people have the opinion that the United States should have never been in World War One.
Mm-hmm.
We sort of got into it because of the sinking of the Lusitania, right? That's
That was the
that's
straw that broke the camel's back.
the straw that could, right? But it's kind of a good point that you can't expect German U-boats to not shoot a ship that's carrying weapons to France and Britain. Like,
It wasn't, Matt.
no,
If I could think, I would.
I know exactly. I mean, maybe we could have one day false flags on the show and talk about the Gulf of Tonkin and that false flag, or Operation Paperclip, right down in South America, right with the CIA. So I'll have to read a
Paperclip.
book on that.
That was pulling the Nazis out of.
Oh,
Rocky
I'm sorry. Yeah. Not Paperclip. What's the running drugs to what's the story? In case you guys don't know, you should
The
look
Tom
into
Cruise
this.
movie.
Where the CIA, basically, the theory is like there's a bunch of cowboys in the CIA that go do this crazy shit, and they're going down to South America, buying drugs, making money, shipping them to the United States, putting them in black communities, and then arresting black people and putting them in jail for drug crimes. Really interesting. Sort of a precursor to the war on drugs. Part of the war on drugs that needs to end immediately.
All right. Maybe
Anyway,
we'll do some research and support
yeah,
our
maybe.
claims next time. We
No,
just went full
that's full fact. The
Yeah,
other
yeah.
stuff is just me pontificating, but that shit right there, you can take that to the bank. All right, Bob. Anything else you want to add before we wrap this podcast up?
No, I do not. Don't trust the media.
Don't trust the media. You heard it here first. The Ombudsman Report. You can hit me up at Planet Politico on Twitter. You can hit my friend Bobby J at Bobby J Politics on Twitter. Hit us up on YouTube, on iTunes, Google Play, our own website. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next week.